WIOX is supported by the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, a catalyst for sustainable economic prosperity in the Catskills, fostering cooperation, forging partnerships, promoting tourism, providing legislative advocacy, and building strong community ties throughout the region. More information at 607-746-2281 or delawarecounty.org. WIOX is supported by Freshtown Marketplace in the heart of Margaretville. Open till 9, Monday through Saturday, Sunday till 8, with everything you'd expect in a supermarket, including local and organic foods, gourmet coffees, microbrew beers and ales, and online shopping. Learn more about online shopping at foodtown.com/shopping. WIOX is supported by Home Goods of Margaretville, corner of Main and Bridge Streets in Margaretville, New York, offering professional and at-home chefs in the Central Catskills region, cooking basics and tools of the trade. Home Goods carries Cuisinart, KitchenAid, All Clad, local pottery, and more. Open 7 days a week. 845-586-4177 or hgom.net.
Hello. Nicole Bomer here, host of Blues Show Something Old, Something Blue, every Wednesday night from 8 to 10, and classic rock show Smokin' Saturdays that happens alternate Saturday nights, also from 8 to 10. And you are listening to WIOX Roxbury, live and local in New York's Catskill Mountains at 91.3 FM, MTC Cable Channel 20, and WIOXradio.org.
Okay, you're listening to WIOX Community Radio, live and local in the Catskill Mountains at 91.3 FM and MTC Cable Channel 20, and everywhere at WIOXradio.org, where it's easy to donate if you like what you hear. You can also get WIOX on any smart device through the FM radio apps. This is From the Forest, every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Talk about a different forest-related topic with Ryan and John. John, how's it going?
Things are good. I spent about half of my day in the woods today.
That's a good day, John.
Yeah, any day like that is a good day. I roamed around, walked around, saw some miles maybe, a couple of miles maybe, walking around looking for a white-tailed deer.
Yeah. And?
I saw several. I saw several bucks, but I don't have a buck tag in my pocket, so...
That's the way it goes. They know it.
That's the way it goes, I guess. And it's funny. It's just how, you can hunt for a buck when you have a tag and never see one, or when you do, it's just a flash and it's gone. But these ones just stood there looking at me, and I had all sorts of opportunities. I got my phone out. I was taking pictures of them. It's kind of fun. You get to watch deer for a while. But
I love it. I love watching deer.
Yeah.
Never gets old.
So how are you?
I'm fine. It's hunting season's over for me. It was fun, and saw a lot of bucks this year. I think you and I both agree we've seen a lot of bucks this year.
Yeah, I think across the board I've heard that from a lot of other hunters I've talked to.
Yeah.
Just a good year to see wildlife, which is cool. Good to know, good to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. Let's see. I saw some coyotes, but a lot of bears, again. A lot of bears. Walking up on bears.
Yep.
Every time I see bears, I just start rock jumping, rock to rock. And you can get pretty close to them. They just don't pay attention.
Yeah, I walked up on one this season a couple weeks ago. It was sleeping on a rock, just curled up like a dog.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I watched him for about an hour. It was great. I really enjoyed doing that. But he would get up, itch himself, roll over on the other side, sit on his butt, look over the ledge, because it's pretty steep in the area I was at. Look over the ledge, you could see 100 yards, and then he'd lay back down and curl up again. Sleeping.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still hunting season, I kind of want to go out, but yeah, I've I think I have enough meat now, and I just can't see taking another one. But yeah, it was a good year. Good year. A lot of acorns in some places, but I just can't get over how many bucks I saw this year. I mean, just chasing does or whatever, all different age classes as well. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, today, where I was hunting, the only thing the deer seemed to be feeding on were remnant acorns underneath big oak trees. They were digging through all the snow.
Yeah, that's probably why some of them were high, you said, right? In elevation in some places, right? On some of those oak ledges.
Yeah, the one spot I was at, they were high on the ridge top where the oaks were.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time they were low, where there was a recent cut, and there was a lot of blackberry. They were feeding on that.
Yeah, because I know the place you're talking about, and that ridge has some very old oaks up above. But, yeah, so other than that, December 1st came in with winter and ushered in winter. And I don't know. They were talking a big game, like we're supposed to get 20 inches plus of snow or something, right?
Yeah, I know. And I changed my whole Sunday plans.
Don't mess with John's Sunday.
Jeez, I only get so many Sundays, right?
Yeah.
Changed my whole Sunday plans to just weather out this storm, and heck, we didn't get anything on Sunday, it seemed like.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say in central Ulster County, only got like maybe 5-6 inches, and then overnight we got an additional 7 to 8, so almost a foot. But whatever. Hey, it's great for hunting if you're hunting out there, but it's a wet snow. You would have been soaked if you were hunting too, though.
If you were hunting on Sunday or Monday, you would have been real wet. Yeah, I never went out. But today, oh yeah, you could. Those 2 bucks, I walked right up on him. One of them, I walked up at like 20 yards, and he was just bedded down, laying there. I walked right behind him and said, "Hey, deer," and he stood up.
Yeah.
Surprised the heck out of him.
No joke, yeah. Yeah, so today's topic is going to be surviving winter. And, a lot of us, when winter comes, maybe you put some more wood in the wood stove, or you plow your driveway, whatever you got to do, right, to survive winter. Well, we're going to be talking about how wildlife does that. So, I don't know. How do they do it, John?
Well, there's really only 3 things they can do. They can get out, they can leave, migrate.
Yeah.
They can get in somewhere, hibernate it out, or they can just tough it out.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's what they're doing. And the deer I saw today, they had a good example of what most deer do when snow comes, and most big wildlife. They're going to burn the least amount of calories just by not moving, and they're actually going to be warmest laying in the snow. Every deer I saw today was just bedded in the snow, and according to the tracks around them, they had been in that general area for a long time.
Sure.
Then the last 2 days, they haven't really moved much. They moved on to a food source, maybe where there's a little cover, they feel safe, and that's where they're hanging out. And they're going to lay there all day long. They can get down into the snowpack a little bit. Any wind is now going to go over top of their bodies. So, and moving around, they don't have to move to food. They're going to lay right there by it. So when they do get up, they're not really expending much energy going anywhere. So that's how the deer seem to do it. Some deer migrate, they move, but we'll get into that a little bit.
And a deer's hair is hollow, so it traps a lot of heat.
It's very insulative. Yeah, any fur is solid, hair is hollow. So deer have hair. And it has a little air pocket in the center of the hair follicle that acts like insulation, just like we put insulation in the walls of our homes. It creates an air pocket from the outside, from the inside, so it's very insulative.
Yeah. Yeah, now bear, I don't know. You know anything about
if they have fur versus hair? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. If you look at a deer's hide, what is there? It's a hollow hair, but then at the base there's like a downy kind of hair as well, isn't there?
And most wildlife have that. That's when we say they're getting their winter coats, right? That's what the deer do when they go from that strawberry color in the summertime to that grayish brown in the wintertime. They really filled out. They lengthen those guard hairs, we call them. It's above the primary coat of hair. And just like we talked about previously with the snow, where the snow is acting like a bridge over top of the deer to let the wind go around, those fine guard hairs on beaver have them, muskrats, those fine guard hairs over top of the hair or the fur coat allow the wind to pass over top without going and contacting the skin, keeps them warmer.
And as far as food goes, I mean, what are you noticing out there, animals eating?
Well, like I said, the deer today that I saw, they were all on oak trees, which is kind of weird. I did a ton of hunting this year, a ton of bow hunting. I do bow hunt a lot, but I did more so this year than any other year. And I really got to experience deer and watch them on acorn food source this year. That's a hard mast that we had this year. The acorns really had a crop. So they took a hiatus, though, at least from what I noticed, or maybe I just changed my hunting habit. I don't know. But there was 2 or 3 weeks between the end of bow and till now, up into rifle season, that I didn't notice deer feeding on acorns as much. But today, where I was, that's all they were feeding on. And you can tell that the buck I saw today, he had been there for days. Underneath, there was 2 or 3 big old hedgerow oak trees, maybe 30 inches plus in diameter, and he was just digging through the snow and feeding on whatever was remaining on the ground.
You notice any sides of mountain or aspect that deer or other animals seem to gravitate towards, or?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, deer do move. They'll definitely move out of the higher elevations. 2 weeks ago, I noticed them. I was hunting at like 2,800 to 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
That was a waste of time.
Really?
And that was about 3 days before that big storm, or 2 days before the big storm we just had earlier this week. So maybe a week ago. And prior to that, I had hunted there at the beginning of rifle season, the beginning of mid-November, and that's where all the deer sign was. On the tips of points, they were hanging out there. I think they were feeding on wood fern up there. I don't know why, but they were on high elevation feeding on wood fern in this particular mountain I was hunting. And I checked it out again a week ago, so end of November, early December, and nothing to be had up there. Everything moved down in elevation. Deer moved down to like 2,300 feet, so they dropped about 500 feet in elevation. Most of them were on a south-facing side of the hill. Some on the north, but almost all were on the south side.
Yeah. And
again, not moving much, just hanging out on their own little food sources that they had found right there.
Yeah, it seems to me like, the south sides will be browsed so much more, on people's properties than north sides usually. Yeah,
I mean, all winter long there's typically less snow. The sun hits it all day long when we do have sunny days and melts it a little bit. So the north slopes hold more snow. Deer move down in elevation. They'll hit hemlock stands. So, or any conifers really. In the Adirondacks, they're going for stands of pine usually, or a mix of hemlock and pine if there is any. But what the conifers do, the conifers have their needles, and that'll catch all the snow catch a lot of the snow that's falling in any storm. Some of that will evaporate, some of it will melt off through the sunlight or other ways. So there's typically a lot less snow in those areas. So if there's any coniferous stand of trees that's maybe next to or adjacent to a food source, whether it's oaks or an old cut, a cut from loggers from a couple of years ago, where there's a lot of understory growth or blackberries, things like that they can feed on, they'll winter out right there. I know at my house there's a hemlock stand right behind my house, and during the coldest part of winter, when we have the most snow, I'll sometimes see about 30 to 35 deer out in my yard in the field in front of my house. That's their food source they're on, and you walk just inside the woods, you're going to see about a dozen right away, but in the evenings you'll see.
About how many inches would you say of snow before you start seeing that?
Last year we didn't really have a lot of snow. We didn't have any big storms, and we didn't have any 18 to 20-inch storms last year at all. I noticed it most when it was coldest.
Oh, yeah?
So the other thing about a coniferous stand is it's going to have a thermal benefit too. So the needles of those trees, they're gonna block some wind, and they're actually going to hold some of that daytime temperature longer into the night. So it's going to hold a little heat and have a thermal benefit for the deer too. So that whenever it got really cold, that's when they all came.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to From the Forest every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Tonight's topic is surviving winter.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love. You never take advice. Someday you'll pay the price. I know. I've seen it before. It happens all the time. You're closing the door. You leave the world behind. You're digging for gold. You're throwing away a fortune and feelings, but someday you'll pay. You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice our love. You want paradise, but someday you'll pay the price. I know. I've seen it before. It happens all the time. You're closing the door. You leave the world behind. You're digging for gold. You're throwing away a fortune and feelings, but someday you'll pay.
you're just tuning in, you're listening to From the Forest every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Tonight's topic is surviving winter, mostly talking about how wildlife survives winter. So, what are the 3 things that animals do to survive winter? 1 is to migrate, 2 is seeking dormancy, and then 3 is just toughing it out, right? So, migrate. When we think of migration, I mean, when I think of migration, I think of birds and stuff. But I don't know. What else is going on there?
Well, birds, I mean, it's quite amazing what some birds do, like the ruby-throated hummingbirds. The hummingbirds you see at your feeders at your house, they travel all the way to Central America. They fly over the Gulf of Mexico, and they're out of here, those little birds.
Crazy.
So it's quite amazing. I mean, and other birds like American woodcock, they'll just fly to the Gulf states, the southern part of the United States. And our local robins, they might only go as far as they have to. They might just go to the southern part of New York or the Hudson Valley or just where it's just better than what it is here. And some of them might move onward. But a lot of wildlife doesn't migrate as far as you think. We just talked about deer. They'll migrate out of the tops of the hills and down into the valleys. You get into the Adirondacks where there's typically more snow throughout the whole winter. Deer will migrate to wintering yards. They're pretty historic sites where they've gone for who knows how long, thousands of years maybe, to these same areas that provide the right food and cover to survive the winter.
About fish, man. Where do the fish go? Do you know?
Where do the fish go?
You know, some fish like, I don't know, any of those amphibians. You know anything about what they do?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some brook trout that move to larger pools.
Yeah.
I don't know any examples, but they must, because there's some streams that must lose enough water throughout the winter and might even freeze up completely in some areas. But amphibians are pretty cool. Some of them are at the bottoms of our ponds right now under the mud, getting their oxygen through the water or other means. Our spring peepers, they might be under the leaves, under logs, under rocks. Most amphibians, they'll either produce some sort of a glycol into their bloodstream, but the spring peepers, they'll metabolize glucose from the liver, into the bloodstream. That causes their blood to thicken in a sort of way, and it's like an antifreeze.
Yeah, I mean, glycol is an antifreeze.
Yeah, so
and a lot of people think that's why trees have sugar in their sap, like a sugar maple. Because think about it, you could take a quart of maple syrup, right, and put it outside on a 20-degree night.
Nothing's going to happen.
It's not going to freeze.
No.
So when it pumps that through its sap into the trees, vascular cambium and all that, and it keeps it from busting apart. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So those amphibians, those spring peepers, I was reading up on them. I guess they're good down to good to 18 degrees Fahrenheit.
Really?
Which, if you're under the leaf litter and something like that, it's probably not getting down that cold.
Right.
You have some thermal benefit from the ground itself,
Yeah, that's why northerners have basements, right?
Right.
Get below that frost line.
So, and they can actually even take some intracellular freezing. So that's freezing of water between their cells. Now, the cells themselves can't freeze or they'll burst.
Crazy.
But they can, I guess, frost up a bit.
No kidding. Yeah, it's a crazy way to, who would think, right? Glycol, huh?
I wish, if we can do that, right? I'm just going to go camping tonight.
It's hard being a human in some ways. I mean, we're not born with, fur or hair. And we're warm-blooded creatures that have to go find something to put on, man. And even with all the modern-day gadgets, it's hard remaining still and hunting, for example, and getting warm. I mean, it can be very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
You learn over time how to do it. You don't want wet clothing, that's for one. You don't want any cotton next to your skin, And I don't know, wool's pretty good, but even heated hand warmers, man. Some people are like, "Oh my god!" But I wish I used those things
Yeah.
a long time ago. Those
I
things are
had a
great.
pair in my pocket of my coat when I went out today. I didn't use them because I didn't end up needing them, but I was prepared with them for sure.
Yeah,
They're great.
You know what the other thing is? I've realized is a vest. A vest, man.
Got to
You know?
keep that core temperature high, right?
Yeah, vests are underrated. You know, I mean, you keep your core warm and you pump out that warm blood to your extremities. It does work, you know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that,
Plus, you can move your arms like a gun.
right.
You can wield a gun or a bow. You know, whereas you wear like a thick sweater, you know, it blocks your arms. You know.
Well, wildlife have birds' legs, for example, ears of wildlife. They have this counter-current exchange system in their bloodstreams.
What?
Where they're
What
not.
did you just say?
It's a
What?
counter-current exchange of blood, so it's not blood pumping from your core or their cores straight to like a bird's leg that's exposed to the direct cold without any feathers, right? It's blood. It's very difficult to explain on the radio without showing you something, but basically it's blood circulating from warm zones to cool zones, and the warm blood never reaches the cool blood ever, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it doesn't drain the body of its heat. Where we, our blood's going out to our extremities straight from our heart, and we get cold, man. It's just humans. We're not set up for cold.
No.
We didn't evolve in cold.
Yeah, I mean, and different animals are better equipped for winter than others. I mean, yesterday, or was it yesterday we were cutting? Yeah. Yesterday was a good example, right? I mean, it was probably, a foot of snow, let's just say, plus or minus.
Sure.
It wasn't a tremendous amount of snow. But, someone who's shorter, it's tougher on them than someone who's taller, like one of our coworkers there. He's a tall guy. And that's where he has an advantage. It's the same thing comparing, like, moose and deer.
Yeah, exactly.
Moose are tall-legged, so they can walk through the snow. A deer, once it gets over 3 feet of snow, they're not liking life.
Oh, they have a very difficult time. But
Yeah.
they might be seeking out a moose trail if they're living, in an area that has moose in the northern part of our United States.
Yeah, sure. But they start bottoming out that axle, man, at 3 feet of snow, They're dragging the skid plate,
I guess that's we have snowmobile trails now that they can use instead of moose trails.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that helps them out for sure, But that's enough of deer. So what about dormancy? It seems like people argue about what is dormancy these days, It's like when I went to school, hibernation was one thing, but now it's estivation. I'm just confused.
And there's torpor. There's all sorts of words.
Don't add in more words.
I made it through college and still confused because I think I even asked in my 400 level wildlife class, so what's the deal? Like, what is this? What is what? And the professor was like, well, everybody's still arguing in the scientific community about.
Does a bear hibernate or not?
I think we've figured out bears, and we're calling it torpor.
Torpor.
So it's progressive periods of, I guess, hibernation or sleep, right?
Progressive
Going
periods.
in and out, and if you look at it as a bell curve, in the beginning of winter, it's more of a quicker cycles in and out. Then when you get to the deepest, coldest, darkest part of winter, it might be longer periods of sustained rest.
Well, sometimes they come out of hibernation or torpor.
Some bears don't go in at all, or for a long time.
Yeah.
I've seen tracks mid-January of bears.
Sure.
A lot of times these are males, though, because the females are going to give birth in their den. So the females will go in at some point. But hunting this last 2 weeks, I did a lot of hunting the last 2 weeks. Loads of bear tracks opening weekend, mid-November.
Absolutely.
A little less bear tracks, but still a lot the second weekend. Third weekend, I only saw one bear track.
Okay.
So they are going in. They went in. You might find a few kicking around here and there, but like I said, those might be those males. that have a food source, though. They still need a food source. So once that food source is gone, people like to talk about, well, the snowstorm's coming, that's going to put all the bears in. Well, I think they were in, almost a week before this big snowstorm came. I just don't think the food was there for them anymore. It didn't make sense to stay out.
Right. Apples are pretty much gone at this point.
Even though there's acorns left, they've been picked through pretty hard they were started dropping acorns in mid-September.
Yeah, really. So, that's nice, Things are tough. They're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, so hibernation, and like you said, estivation, torpor, there's all sorts of things going on. There's even a term for, there's wildlife that make it through hot desert days and go into some sort of...
That's the estivation?
That's the estivation. Yeah, I get all my terms messed up.
It's all right. It's tough, man.
There's so many of them. But like a squirrel, right? They'll go in and out. They might be just sitting in a cavity of a tree, not even, asleep. And my winter, this really confused me. And I really like to see more research on this because my winter ecology professor had a theory that she read from somewhere else that the reason why they don't truly hibernate is because every animal, including us, we need to sleep. It's very important in our daily cycle to sleep. So when the wildlife is going into hibernation, it's just a suppression of their metabolic state. It's not actually falling asleep, right? So sure theory was wildlife needs to come out of that to wake up and then go to sleep for the benefits of survival and then go back into that low metabolic state. That was a theory she had. So I'd like to see some information about that. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, what you were talking about before with the frogs and spring peepers and insects is called chemical dormancy. I'm reading on this paper.
Okay.
Otherwise I wouldn't know. With the glycol and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So we have chemical dormancy, estivation, which is in hot areas, torpidity, which seems to be the popular thing now as opposed to hibernation, where it's just a reduced metabolic state.
Right.
And their wastes and stuff must be...
Shuts down.
Amazing. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to From the Forest every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Tonight's topic is surviving winter.
You mean to say you're gonna go and leave me? You mean to say that it'd be that easy? You mean to say that's you I see walking away? What did I say? What did I do wrong? Could it be I stayed here too long? You mean to say you'd walk away? Is now at an end, is now at an end. You mean to say by walking away we'll never love again, we'll never love again. Okay, you must be going, but you don't go before I'm knowing what I do to make you change your mind. Is now at an end. You mean to say by walking away we'll never love again, never again. We'll never love again, we'll never love again.
All right. This is From the Forest every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Talk about a different forest-related topic with Ryan and John. And we're talking about surviving winter. Winter is back right on time, December 1st. Right? Was that snowstorm came in right on December 1st, no?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
2 days long.
And it's 2 days long, yeah. So, okay, we talked about how some wildlife likes to migrate, and then some seek dormancy, and now toughing it out. Did you know that birds, like hawks, Cooper's hawk, puff their chest in to hold in warm air? I thought they were just doing it to look cool.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I always thought it was they're creating a larger surface area.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. I guess maybe that's the same thing you're talking about. Yeah, anything that's got a larger surface to volume ratio is going to hold in heat better.
Yeah, it says Cooper's hawk will puff out its chest in order to hold heat in. A bird may raise one leg to reduce exposure of skin.
My chickens do it all the time.
Yeah, man, I see them do that. Yeah, I see them do it on the perch. You know?
Yep.
They'll curl up next to a tree on the sunny side. I believe that. Yeah, you ever notice that a tree has those little potholes next to it because it's radiating heat, in the snow?
Yep.
Pretty neat. Let's see, what else? Shivering. I did not know that crows shivered. Did you know this?
I did not know that birds could shiver.
I don't believe it.
I don't think I've ever been close enough to a crow. Nor will I ever.
Yeah. I don't know. We already talked about moose, how they're pretty much built for snow. Tall-legged and... Yeah, it's kind of weird. You never find moose that much alongside deer. It seems like you either have a lot of moose or you have a lot of deer, but never both,
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder what that's about.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, when I was in Vermont, it's like... I was a ranger in Vermont, in southern Vermont, and on the Meadowy Valley, on the New York side, there was a lot of deer. But then on the other side, on the eastern side, the Green Mountain side, there was just a ton of moose sign and so much less deer sign. All anecdotal. I don't have any data, John. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, my friend Steve, he's been on this radio show once. He compared Maine forest to Catskill forest because he spent time and lived in both. But I visit him sometimes, and it's the same thing. There's moose trails like we have deer trails here. There's moose trails. Last time I was there, I brought a trail camera with me. I love trail cameras, so I put one up for the 4 days I was visiting him, expecting a moose picture.
Right.
And we got a picture of a buck, of a deer. And he was like jaw dropped. He's like, oh my God, a buck. Yeah.
They don't see him.
For us, that would be like, yeah, it's just a spike horn. It's sure.
Yeah, right.
But he really expected that's just a freak occurrence. We didn't get a moose picture.
Maybe what it is that we talk about deer browse line. It's probably 5 to 6 feet. We know this. But if the moose browse line is up from the ground to, 8 feet, 10 feet, 9
and even
feet?
higher. So what was cool when I was last there, he was showing me he's watched a moose on like a 2 to 3 inch maple that might be 20 feet tall at that point, or 3-inch maple might be up to 15 to 20 feet tall at that point. A moose will kind of cradle it between its shoulders and push it over with its chest.
Yeah.
And feed over top of it and feed along the whole thing all the way up.
Yeah, so I wonder if they reduce the food source enough in the woodland setting.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, when I was looking at it, where they do just kind of nip the tops off at 6 or 8 feet, it caused the whole stem to just coppice out with many branches. So for within 4 feet where the deer can reach, I would think it would benefit them.
It's got to be the snow thing.
I think it's got to be, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be the snow thing. Because now that I think about it, I remember going on some forestry trainings up there in New Hampshire, and there's a ton of regeneration. There was stuff growing there that is considered a snow cone to a deer, like sugar maple regeneration seedlings, ground hemlock or yew, American yew,
Sure.
Or if you're in Canada, it's Canada yew. But yeah, it was like carpeting the forest floor there, so it's got to be a snow thing, you know.
Right.
But the problem with moose is if you get a moose, if you happen to win the lottery and draw a moose tag, you need like a clan of guys to get it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas one man can normally take out one deer, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those moose, the bulls that they shoot are typically, if it's a good mature one, they're typically over 800 pounds. 8 to 1,200 pounds isn't uncommon.
That's insane. I mean, you got to quarter it up at that point.
Yeah, well, a lot of guys don't. I don't know why. They find ways. They'll get creative with winches, and I heard one guy, he put a moose, he took the bed liner out of his truck and used that as a sled.
Yeah.
He got the moose in it, and then he winched the bed liner out.
Yeah, I could see that.
I guess it worked. A lot of those guys, they don't get too far off the forest roads.
I don't think you really need to with a moose.
Right. Well, that's where they focus on hunting is close, because they don't want to have to.
Let the moose come to you, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
They call them, kind of like turkeys. They can call them in.
That's amazing.
So they'll go down the forest roads, park their truck, then walk a few hundred yards to get away from the vehicle, and then they'll call to the road. And then when the moose steps out to the forest road, logging road, I guess you can call them, that's when they take their shots.
I guess we're talking about surviving winter, so let's talk about the moose some more. Don't they kind of look like a wild camel?
I guess the face might resemble that. Yeah, right.
Has anyone ever thought of this before? I mean, to me, they look like a camel, but with big antlers.
Maybe they have a...
look at them next time you look at their nose.
They have a like ancestor
They gotta.
somewhere down the line.
Yeah, they're a weird-looking creature, man.
One went north and one stayed in the desert.
Yeah, I was up at a member's property in Albany County last weekend, and he was saying, yeah, we had a moose come down there, which isn't totally unbelievable because we have heard of them coming down to Albany County.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And Dutchess, even.
I think there's a satellite population in Saratoga right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saratoga County, I don't know where, but...
Yeah. Moose meat's good.
Yeah, it's good.
But you know, it's really puzzling. We're going to have to do a show on this. You know what? We got to do a show on moose.
Have we never done that?
You know, we've never done... No, we're in the Catskills, man. We don't have moose. I mean, if there's a moose, it's like some freak male that, doesn't know where he is, doesn't have GPS, and is looking for cows and didn't find any in some way.
Well, we did a show on mountain lions. We don't have mountain lions that we know of.
Whoa. Let's not get controversial. Let's not get crazy. All right. I'm fighting words.
I guess so.
Yeah, no. That's true. That's a good point. But there's a weird thing going on with moose right now, right? Because, like, the New Hampshire and Vermont population's got some kind of mange or something.
It's not mange. It's a tick. It's winter ticks. Yeah. And they engorge themselves. I don't know if it causes other type of infection or they literally engorge themselves so much that they're killing the moose. I don't know. But they get as big as grapes. They've engorged themselves so large. They're large ticks. They only go after moose, I guess.
But the Adirondack population doesn't have it, supposedly.
I know, but my friend in Maine that I was just talking about, Steve, he's been on this show, and he talked about it. If anyone wants to archive some of our old shows and look back, he talked about it on that show, I want to say maybe 2017-ish.
Yeah.
When he was on, and it was definitely in November. So, yeah, he discussed the winter ticks a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
No
Briefly.
kidding.
He didn't know a lot about them either, but he talked about what he knew.
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember him telling me they're the size of grapes when they're engorged. Giant ticks.
Nasty.
Oof.
Huh. Well, if you're just tuning in to From the Forest every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m., tonight's topic is surviving winter. When we come back, we'll probably not talk about moose. We'll probably talk about how wildlife survives winter. But, you don't know. You never know.
dressing rooms are great. They come on strong, and it ain't too long, but I make you feel a man. But love is blind, and you soon will find you're just a boy again. When you wanna live, you get a cheek, makes you wonder where you are. If you want some more, then she's fast asleep, leaves you twinkling with the stars. For a young grandson, there's nothing I can say. They'll have to learn just like me, and that's the hardest way. Ooh la la. Ooh la 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 la, yeah. I wish that I knew all I know now. When I was younger, I wish that I knew all I know now. When I was stronger.
All right. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to From the Forest every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m. Talk about a different forest-related topic with Ryan and John. Tonight's topic is surviving winter. I'll just say, man, when I was surviving winter in the military, in the military, it stinks because you don't have control over your clothing. You have to kind of go with whatever they tell you to do.
Uh-huh.
And everything back then, it probably still is, was polypros, synthetic. They work, but you stink, man. Synthetics, it just absorbs all that odor. And the other thing is, you can't use gaiters. Man, have we realized gaiters is like, even on days when you're not even walking through the mud or snow, gaiters, it keeps your heat. Because think about it, you probably lose a lot of heat between the boot and your pants.
Right. I was
Yeah.
wearing gaiters today. I didn't, I decided I really just don't like tall, like muck boot or rubber boots anymore. I used to be all about them for years. And one, they're expensive and they wear out so fast, and I was just done with that. But my feet would hold in all that moisture, I guess, from the inside, and they get cold super fast. It'd be like, all right, an hour into the day, and my feet are cold. I switched to gaiters. You can take a 6-inch boot, turn it into a 14-inch boot, and
you're warmer.
And you stay warm.
You can stand in the snow in hiking boots.
Exactly.
And be like, whatever.
That's what I wore today. I wore my summertime hiking boots, and I was in that snow. And
yeah.
I was moving around most of the day, but
sure,
still in it.
So we're talking about how wildlife migrates and they hibernate and also tough it out. And, John, it wouldn't be Surviving Winter Show if you didn't talk about your fancy, dancy term, subnivean.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ryan, years ago, I said the term subnivean layer, and Ryan thought it was the funniest thing. Crazy. But it's Latin.
Well, it's a silly word.
Right. So it's Latin. It's sub, meaning within or beneath, and nives is snow. So subnivean is under the snow.
I guess it's not that silly. It makes total sense, actually.
So what's going on under the snow? It's actually, for some wildlife, we've just been talking about in the last 10 minutes about, the snow being a hindrance on wildlife like deer and moose. But for most wildlife, believe it or not, it's actually a benefiting factor, especially deep snow.
Yeah.
Snow that's only 2 or 3 inches deep, whatever, it's not providing much. But the snow that we got this last week, that was 6 to 12 inches in most areas of the Catskill Mountains, that was perfect. That created that subnivean layer. It creates this temperature grade, right? So the outside temperatures at night, last night, I think 22, something like that. It can get into the 20s or lower. It could be in mid-January below zero, above in the air temperature. Near the surface of the ground, in that snow layer is usually constant at 32 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's a huge difference. That could be 60, 70 degrees difference in temperature between the top of the snowpack and the bottom on a cold night. And for any mammals, homeotherms we call them.
Homeotherms.
Yeah, they don't like to use the term warm-blooded, cold-blooded anymore.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's too, it's not nice enough?
Poo-pooed now, I guess. No, it's because it's relative to what? What's warm, what's cold. So
yeah, right.
Homeotherm, meaning it's a constant temperature like us. We're what, 98.6 degrees or whatever?
Yeah.
So homeo 1. I think the other term is poikilotherm, something like that. The cold-blooded reptiles, they're varying body temperatures for survival. But anyway, that subnivean layer, that's where the mice are. The
voles, man.
Voles. So when you see the spring melt in March and all of a sudden all your apple trees are chewed apart, well, that was voles within the subnivean layer, feeding throughout the winter. They're
hopefully you got your screens on your trees.
Yeah, hopefully you did. I mean, it's not too late, I guess. Maybe it is, but hopefully now you get out there in the snow shovel and put your screens on.
Well, if you messed up and you didn't put your screens on, you could take snowshoes and just walk around your trees and trample the subnivean layer.
That's right, because they're only going to move within it and throughout, because if they go above it, they're going to lose that value. There's a temperature... I forget what it is, but there's a temperature and a snowpack level where surface rodent tracks disappear almost completely.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't make sense for them to be above. Ruffed grouse, they'll roost under the snowpack sometimes for days.
Days.
Yeah, if there's a extreme weather event like we're getting dumped on, like this last storm lasted like 2 days almost, they'll stay within that subnivean layer with maybe just their head poking up for a day or more.
John, we got 3 minutes left. What do turkeys do when it snows a lot?
They don't move.
They don't move.
They will sit and they might roost in the same spot for more than a day. They might fly down. Usually I see them, this is kind of anecdotal, I see them near a water source, maybe a spring in the Catskills. There's water for them there, and it usually doesn't freeze over there. The water keeps flowing. They'll find some type of food source.
Yeah, spring seeps and stuff.
Yeah, it'll melt off first, but they'll just roost and they won't move. They just can't take deep snow. They can't walk.
I mean, deer have a tough enough time. Turkeys, man, forget about it.
My chickens don't leave the coop unless I shovel a path after the snow comes.
I know. I'm glad, actually. It gives the house a break, because they're always walking around pooping everywhere.
Yeah.
But now they can't get to the house.
Right.
So
cleaner boots.
Yeah, they can eat snow. They're not like humans. Humans, if you eat snow, you can die of dehydration. At least that's what I've been told through survival classes and stuff.
Yeah.
But chickens can do just fine.
I think they might prefer it. I have a couple chickens.
I know mine prefer it because I'll put out water. They won't eat the water. They'll go to the snow.
Yeah. Well, I have a little spring seep next to my coop that I shovel a path to, and that's the water for the winter.
Yeah.
But you'll watch them walk to it. It's like a 20-foot walk, and they'll be eating snow the whole way.
Yeah, no, they like snow, man.
So I guess birds, that's how they do it. I wonder if there's anything other than chickens out there.
I have no idea. Maybe there's a chicken expert we can get on.
I mean, just birds in general, surviving the winter.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, their metabolism's different. I mean, they have gizzards, John. You know what I mean? That's just a weird thing.
They eat rocks.
Right, they eat rocks. So, in any case, if you're just tuning in, this is From the Forest. Every Wednesday, 6 to 7 p.m., talk about a different forest-related topic. And not sure what we're going to do next week. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about moose. We'll see.
We put our feelers out today to someone up in New England that might be able to talk about moose and New England wildlife forests, New England forests. So see if he'll come on next week.
That's right. But up next is Mostly British with Rick Neblong. And have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Oh, the neon lights were flashing and the icy wind did blow. The water seeped into his shoes and the drizzle turned to snow. His eyes were red, his hopes were dead, and the wine was running low. And the old man came home from the forest. His tears fell on the sidewalk as he stumbled in the street. A dozen faces stopped to stare, but no one stopped to speak. For his castle was a hallway, and the bottle was his friend. And the old man stumbled in from the forest. Up a dark and dingy staircase the old man made his way. His ragged coat around him as upon his cot he lay. And he wondered how it happened that he'd ended up this way, getting lost like a fool in the forest. And as he lay there sleeping, a vision did appear. Upon his mantle shining the face of one so dear, who'd loved him in the springtime of a long forgotten year, when the wildflowers did bloom in the forest. She touched his grizzled fingers and she called him by his name. And then he heard the joyful sound of children at their games, in an old house on a hillside in some forgotten town, where the river runs down from the forest.
WIOX is supported by Catskill Mountain Cleaning, specializing in Airbnbs, vacation homes, and private residences. Cleaning, firewood stack, trash removal, and small pest exterminating. Serving the Catskills region, including Margaretville, Andes, Bovina, and the surrounding area. More information at 607-261-1674 or CatskillMountainCleaning.com. WIOX is supported by the Catskill Mountain News, delivering news, features, arts, entertainment, and sports weekly since 1863. Available on newsstands by subscription or online at CatskillMountainNews.com. Catskill Mountain News, intensely local, uniquely personal. WIOX is supported by the Mark Project and the 3rd annual Roxbury Soup and Sip to benefit the Roxbury Flower Fund. Over a dozen soups and wine pairings